Yo, technical difficulties. Yeah, let's go. But we're actually live now. We are actually unironically live now. I was like talking in front of like the preview, and I was like, "Oh yeah, look at me go." I don't do YouTube streaming that much. But yeah, welcome everyone to the RePHIL studio. It's your host SVPhilos4 here. Back with a video as our studio, back in the studio as usual, in my lovely, happy, Sayo Happy here. And I'm joined by our lovely guests here, who have also gotten T10 in this current event, Melody of a Dignified Wind, just like myself, and I'm glad to have them as teammates to help me through the event. So we have Pastry, who got top 2 in the event, Raven, who got 4th place in the event, and Zander, who is our T1, our first place placer in the event. Again, thank you to all 3 of you for coming along and joining us for this special episode of the RePHIL studio. And again, welcome to our YouTube members as well. It's great to have you join us and watch with us as well. So this is going to be a relatively brief podcast, but it's going to be just to give an idea and give all our listeners out there an idea of how it's like to tier for such an event, and also tier for an event that is so that we were able to get such high rankings, right? 1st, 2nd, 4th, and 5th, all in this podcast here. Quite stacked. I could update that real quick, actually. So as we were saying, I just want to get to know how did you guys first planned this this event, right? Let's start with Zander, of course, because you got T1. So how did that go in terms of planning for the event, and how did it go? Oh, that's a problem. This is what happens when you try to set it up super last minute. Hold on. I know where the problem is. I just need to find it. Do I have to end the stream first? I might have to. Oh. Oh man. Oh man. Okay, where was it? It was advanced audios. Perfect. All right, we should be good now.
Mic check.
Woo!
Can the chat
I think
hear
it
me?
should be good.
Well, the mics are working now.
I think so. Hopefully.
Hello.
Testing.
Chat type 1 if you can hear me.
I'm getting mega pinged. Is it still not working?
I still see chat saying there's no audio.
Oh my god! All right, we might have to do a 3rd take here. Jesus Christ! All right.
The struggle is real.
Oh wait,
the struggle is real.
It's good.
Is it? Okay, Tilt says it's near. Okay. Oh, chat must be on a delay. Hi. All right.
Yeah,
Okay,
I think
okay, we're good.
How long it takes
we
for
are
chat to start typing
good.
Okay.
Oh
Yeah,
my
I'm seeing the ones
God.
now.
I see the ones now. Okay.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right.
I think the YouTube is on like a slight delay from Discord, so
Yeah.
just gotta keep that in mind.
All right. So why don't we? So this, I'm gonna try and save like an actual video of it, separately. So you guys with the live stream experience, you'll hear the beautiful, like the all the technical errors and all the mistakes that we have. You get to experience that my clownery. That won't be in the actual episode. But yeah, I think you guys also already hear the intro, which is great. But let's start from the beginning. So this podcast is going to be featuring our top 10 of the Melody of a Dignified Wind event, and it serves to talk a little bit more about experiences tiering for this event and how we got such a high rank in all of them. And we'll open the floor for questions from our viewers near the end. But for now, we're going to first talk about our experiences and how it went. So, Zander, we'll start with you again. Take it from the top about your story of how you planned on getting top one in this event and such.
All right. Yeah. So basically, you kind of have to jump all the way back to Twin Stars back in 2019 on EN, because I had kind of sort of impulse T10'd that because I wanted a Sio banner title. It was originally going to be a T100. And things kind of got out of hand. I ended up in T10. I was like, "Yo, this is cool."
Red, we whale baited him.
Yes, I was. If I don't, there's a sort of in joke about the pastry effect. That definitely happens to me. And so after that event, I was like, you know what? I don't know if I want to make this a super frequent thing. It's kind of time consuming, expensive. But if there's a Sio banner where she's like the solo banner, I'm gonna go for T1 for that. I'll just go for it. And originally like we were all thinking, oh, it's got to be Noble Rose 3, right? There hasn't been a Sio banner on Noble Rose yet. And then Noble Rose was a Yukina banner, so that kind of came in. I was like, yeah, kind of lost interest in that.
Mm-hmm.
But then August rolled around last year, and this event dropped, and I saw, that it was a Sio banner. It looked like it was a pretty interesting. Like immediately, the banner intrigued me because of like the amount of emotion that was involved just in the card art. And so it's like, oh, this has got to be a good story. This is going to be some really solid Sio character development. And I've always really wanted to see some more exploration of Sio's character outside of just her in relation to Hina or her in relation to Roselia. Like I want to see more of her interacting with other guitarists, other members of other bands, stuff like that, and like where she's like the actual focus as opposed to just an accessory. And so like that banner dropped, I was like, of course I reflexively said T1 immediately just because like, everyone jokes about like there's like, banner drops and like 12 people say I gotta go T1 for this.
Pretty much. Yeah.
But I was like, oh gosh, I gotta do this. So I started like setting up, a server, figuring out how to do that. And yeah, I pulled some people on board, got the band together, and was like, yeah, you know what, I guess I'm doing this. And that's kind of how it started.
Mm-hmm. How did it go for in terms of like trying to grab people like Pastry into your roster? Like how did that happen? And how did Pastry you end up getting top 2 or planning that out?
A question for me.
I guess you could talk about first about how you expanded your roster. Then we'll get into how Pastry kind of decided to go for it. As well.
I mean, it was basically I just pinged all the Sio whales I knew, which of course at the top of that list is going to be Pastry. Like
only, right?
y'all interested in this? I'm going for this. Y'all want to be on board? And I just kind of pieced together the people who are available, kind of made a list of folks to check in on, people I knew that would be interested in it, and then kind of once I got kind of a core put together, I started just kind of expanding from there, seeing who else was interested. We can probably go into the roster, like how the roster came together a little bit later after you chat with the others about how they decided on this. But yeah, it was mostly just kind of reaching out to the people I already knew. Pastry and I went back a little ways before this, and everyone else kind of fell into place. I knew you for a little while before poking you about joining the roster. And the roster, of course, shrunk considerably between the start of planning for it and the start of the event. But it was really just kind of a networking thing, seeing who was available, seeing who I could get.
Oh, for sure. And Pastry, when Zander reached out to you, asking, if you wanted to help out or join, what was your response, and what did you do to try and plan for this event?
Yeah, I actually think it took a little bit of time before Zander actually decided for sure if he wanted to go T1 or not. And I think when the banner came out, I think a lot of people kind of assumed I was going to be going for T1 actually, because I had people like DMing me. It's like, so are you going for this? When are you making like the server and stuff? And I was like, guys, the event just dropped. I haven't even decided if I want to do it or not. But yeah, I think what more or less happened is I think, and you can kind of confirm if this is true or not, but I think I kind of had the feeling that you thought that Zander thought I was gonna go for it, and when he realized that I wasn't gonna do it, then he decided to go for T1. And at that point, I was just like, I'm not really sure how high I want to do this event to begin with. So at first, I just said T10. Because I was like, I wanted to wait and see like how things shaped up like around the event, mainly because I was waiting to see if there was when they were going to start doing like BS3s and that kind of stuff, to see if there was going to be something that I would want to do more instead. And then once like I had a better picture of like the schedule around it, then I was just like, okay, I'll just go T2. And the T2 looked really nice. I don't have a T2, and I think there's, in general, when it comes to like SIO banners, I would want to have it, but there's other people that I am okay with playing with and like working with under as a T1, and Xander's one of those people. So when he decided he wanted to do T1, I was like, that's perfect. Like this is probably like one of like the only chances I'll ever see Zander do a T1, and this is like the perfect event for Zander too, because I know like Zander has always been waiting for like this type of event. So when he decided to go for T1, I was like, I'll definitely go and tier with you, at least T10 if not higher. But yeah, I eventually just decided on T2 just because I saw, there's nothing else really nearby that might throw off my schedule, and I could definitely make time for it. It was a Saya banner, a T2 that I didn't have yet, and the title looked really, really nice, so I was 100% down for it. And then as far as like preparation goes, I just kind of did the same thing I always do, which is just budget ahead of time and get time off from work and decide how to prep in terms of getting cards and what else I need to do on that. But luckily there wasn't too much on that front since it's live goals, so we don't really need to do too much in terms of cards. All I really did was just roll for Toko, and that's about it.
Well, it must be nice to say, I have a couple of T1s, a T3s. Must be pretty nice to get a T2.
I have to complete the podium set at some point.
Like the trifecta.
Yeah. It's kind of a situation where a lot of times I don't really go for T2s or T3s just because when I go for podiums I have to take time off and work for it. And do more prep than I would for a T10, and I just figure if I'm going to be doing that much, I might as well just go for the T1 anyways.
Yeah.
I realize how whale of a mentality that sounds. Trust me, I realize how whale of a mentality that sounds.
Oh.
But it's just more of a just the is it worth going this far just for like a T2 or a T3? But in this case, I was more than happy to take the T2.
Yeah, our YouTube comments are having a bit of a fun time with what you just said. Right
yeah, I can see that, Shades.
Well, what about you, Raven? I mean, you just it kind of felt like a lost child kind of stumbled into the server, and you ended up getting a roster spot. How did you stumble upon trying to get T10 and join us for our sort of roster and session?
So I don't usually prepare for events because I'm mostly free to play. Keyword mostly here, but I was asking around PubCord for a link to this event because I wanted to get a T100 title because I had like a banger team, and someone linked me to Zander's server, and I was like, wait a minute, the server's got like a slot missing in it. I could probably fill it. It won't be too much money. And then everything snowballed, and I started like crying internally.
Yeah.
That's like the general trend, really.
Yeah. It's interesting again because just before this podcast, we talked about how or why you decided to say, okay, this is going to be the event that I would that you would tier for, even though your favorite character is not necessarily in this event, but yeah, it was really interesting. Did you when you signed up when there was that last minute roster spot, Raven? Did you sign up thinking that were your expectations different? I mean, you already basically answered that, but what kind of expectations you had and how are they different as the event went?
Man, I didn't think basically an adult dollar is like $20, right? But
Yeah.
then a Bang Dream dollar is like $100. This shit does not compare well at all. It's horrible.
Well,
I'm not sure I understand.
Yeah. Can you elaborate a little more?
Okay, so $20 in the actual world, it gets you generally enough stuff. It's not too expensive, but it's not super cheap either. But in the Bang Dream world, everything costs $100 because the star packs aren't cheap at all, and those 1,000 stars really go far to give you extra flames when it matters. So the minimum you should be buying is the 100 packs, I guess.
I think I see what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah. It's tough. It's a lot of resources are required to kind of build in order to prepare for an event, especially if you haven't let's say done it well in advance. Someone like Raven again, very last minute. So the last minute sort of preparation, you definitely realize that going for a rank as high as top 10 is not easy. If you had all the time that you can, some other people in the top 10 as well. It definitely, you can save a bit of resources, but it's not easy at any means. This
Especially
was
when
not
gacha luck is involved.
Yeah, especially when gacha luck is involved as well. Zander, what kind of in terms of your preparations? I mean, the latter two have already talked a bit about it, but what kind of preparations did you focus on the most when you were saying I was going to go for that T1?
Well, I mean, I knew that the first thing I needed to do is make sure that my team was going to be halfway decent at least. I already had scores for Sayo. I had a score for Kaoru. No, actually, I had the ticket Kaoru. But that was the second piece after. No, I had a Taya score and a Sayo score, and then I ticketed a Kaoru. And so my main decision point became, do I pull for DF Misaki or do I pull for Toko? Because I don't think I can really afford to pull for both. And I spent a bunch of time discussing with Pastry and others about who know way more than I do about team optimization and how to squeeze as much data and info out of best story as you can. And so I ran some numbers, and decided that, you know what, I can skip DF Misaki. I've got this 3-star Misaki that's gonna work just fine. The most important thing is gonna be making sure I have that 250% bonus, and at least, you know, a 3-star for everybody. And you know, I was pretty prepared. I was like, okay, I may have to, you know, I don't know how many pulls Toko's gonna come home in. So, you know, I may have to spend a bit more pre-event than I was expecting. But then I was like, I originally wasn't even gonna pull at all on the very first Morphonica banner. But then someone, I think it was Michaela. I'm pretty sure it was Michaela that told me to just like do dailies on it, just, you know, because you never know. And
That's
so
usually like a generally good assumption. If you're getting smart Bandry advice, it's probably coming from Michaela.
Yeah. Yeah. Michaela is like where I'd say about 90% of everything I know about Bandori comes from, and the other 10% probably comes from Pastry. And but yeah, so I pulled some dailies on the Morphonica banner, and Toko showed up around pull 6. So I was like, well, I guess I don't have to pull Dreamfest anymore. And that basically locked in my funds for the event. I was like, yeah, I'm pretty set. I have 4-star scores and a 3-star. So I've got flexibility in what center I want to run. I can run the 100 to 10% at the start of the event when I'm fresh, and then switch to 100% when I'm tired. And yeah, it really gave me a lot of flexibility. And then a lot of the rest was just planning out schedules, and that with that I did a lot of consultation with Pastry on, you know, how, you know, what kind of if prep to do, what stuff to have on hand, what kind of hours to pull, and what kind of stuff to expect.
It's really interesting. Again, like the preparation coming into an event, there's a lot more than just having the stars or having the energy to use during the event, but there's also a little bit of preparation needed for you know, your team as well, because optimally you want to make sure that you get as much points as you can in within a certain time frame of playing. You know, tiering is about balancing, you know, being able to play well, but also being able to play efficiently, and efficiency comes with both playing as fast as you can and also having a good team. I think all three of you had like a very solid team going into this event, right?
I think my team was like almost optimal.
Ravens was damn good. So
Yeah.
so I don't mean to steal this from you, Raven, but when Raven and I were talking, when Raven first DM'd me about joining the roster, and he was like, is this a good team? I was like, that's like a perfect team. You're golden.
Like when I first like started DMing you, I got super scared because I thought like T10 was like these super sweaty like superstar players that really do not miss a single note. Everything's perfect on their team, and I was like, shit, I have like the wrong Masaki card or something. Then I found out that people were running 1-star token. I was like, oh, I'm probably fine.
I'm raising my hand right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like one of the nice things with live goals, because the only thing that really necessarily matters in terms of stars is your center, because you just want to have like a 100% or higher center. But literally everything else on the team, so long as it matches the member and the attribute, can be whatever like star you want it to be. Like I've seen people run teams with like multiple 2-stars before, and they're totally fine. It's like maybe a loss of, I don't know, like 200, 300 EP a game out of like 12,000. It's nothing.
Yeah. But at the same time, it's like, you know, especially in a competitive event like this, it was you know, it was different. Every little point counts, right? You want to make sure you have even like the little bit of optimization and being able to go through as quickly as possible, just so that you could slowly but surely build that lead. I know that you know, I wasn't personally myself, I wasn't really going into the event thinking I was going for T10. I was just kind of memeing, thinking I could go for top 11. because I failed my top 11 attempt last time a year ago. But I wanted
Well, you kind of
to...
failed top 11 this time too.
Yeah, I did.
Just in the opposite
I still
direction.
failed. It's like, oh man, I didn't get top 11. I ended up getting top 5. I wonder how did that happen. But yeah, but then obviously, then Zander. I had interest in the roster. I did talk to Zander about whether or not the roster was available. But and eventually when the spots opened up, I ended up getting it. But I wasn't really like too prepared for it. Like, I'll be completely honest, my team wasn't really great. I went into it with only the 1-star Toko, 3 3-stars, and the only 1 4-star Michelle scorer. It was not good. So I told myself that I would sort of allocate a couple of stars, just a little bit though, for Tagacha for the Sayo card. And if I didn't get her after a certain amount of pulls, I would just give up and just use the really crappy team and just go with that. I think there's something out there that told me that this was like the event to go, because I used 14 free summoning tickets that you get, when you play for every 7 days, and I did 20 more pulls using stars. So that's 34 pulls, and I got Sayo on 34 pulls, and Sayo is 34 as terms of numbers. It was honestly like something was like calling out there, be like, all right, you're getting Sayo in like 34 pulls, which was like honestly like crazy. I was like, oh my goodness, this is it. There's no way I'm not getting top 10 in this.
That's like actually perfectly coincidental.
It worked out so well. I was like, wow, that was actually crazy. And I was like, that was the only like pulls I was doing. If I didn't get Sayo after that 34th pull, I actually wasn't going to gacha anymore. I was like, I need to use this for tiering. So it worked out actually quite well, which was great, honestly. So that was definitely one of my highlights of this event. In terms of like I guess highlights, or I don't know, lowlights of the event, Raven, what was something that you found to be maybe a memorable part of the event that could be good, could be not so good, but why don't you share something with us?
It was really interesting, just like being up for that long period of time, and then hearing like the crazy comments from like Zander and Pastry, like how Zander would be like, "Sorry, I had to go dunk my face in water," like out of nowhere, from like soul menuing or something.
You never done tiering before, and then on your first day of tiering, you think you did like, what is it, 13, 14 hours, 15 hours of non-stop tiering at the start?
I don't know. I don't want to look at the spreadsheet. It's gonna make me sad.
Don't worry, I'll count. Raven, you went for 18 hours.
Oh my goodness, 18 hours!
Yeah, never again. Never again.
I mean, it's a pretty good start though. I don't think a lot of people do that, especially on like a first tiering attempt. I remember like my first time doing I think like a T10, well, quote unquote T10. It was actually T3, but I think I literally stopped after like 9 or 10 hours because I was like, I want to fucking sleep, dude.
Same here. It's Twin Stars. In fact, I don't think I even decided on T10 until like the second or third day. Mm-hmm. And so like my first few sessions were not long at all. I went to sleep pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm. That's what happens when competition's there to push you, right? You know that there's competition. If you sort of become complacent at any moment, things get quite dicey, and it's always good to play with the lead than rather than play catch up. We've seen events in the past where catch ups have happened, but usually those who secure the lead at the beginning are able to secure it at the end. So of course, I think on the spreadsheet, I think Zander, you went like 28, 29 hours.
I went for also I'm sorry, I was looking at the wrong column. Raven, you went for 14 hours, which is still
really good though. Impressive. Still really good.
I went for 30 hours. It was like 29 to 30 hours. Mm-hmm. Yeah. While we're reading numbers, Pastry the Mad Lad went 39.
Was it really 39? I thought it was less than that.
No, 36. 36. I keep
Okay,
looking
yeah.
at the wrong column.
Yeah, 36 sounds right. I was like, I
36.
don't think I did 39 this time.
This
But
time.
yeah.
It
This
says.
time, okay. All right there, all right there. But yeah, obviously we put a lot of hours into the beginning of the event to really try and build that lead. I personally only went 11, but that was the first time I've went that far. That was something. Like I was just sitting there tapping A2Z, and I was like, all right, I'm done. I'm just gonna go sleep because I just want to rest up and then get ready for the next day. And I'm already seeing the sun coming out, and it was difficult. But obviously Xander, you went into this event knowing that there was competition. So what did you think you did to feel that even before the event started, like what did you do or what did you think that you were going to do and plan around in order to ensure, or like what was your game plan going into this event to make sure that you're able to beat the competition?
Honestly, especially when it comes to this kind of event, live goals, the only thing that matters is, well, the only two things that matter are playing more and playing better. And by playing better, I mean like efficiency. So making sure that you are not, you know, sitting there on the menu screen for 5 to 10 seconds, because that stacks up. Like if you're sitting there on the menu for even a couple seconds over the course of the event, that equals a bunch of lost EP. So it was about making sure that I had, the appropriate amount of sustenance nearby at hand that I could access quickly without having to stop playing. Which admittedly I kind of underprepared on that front, especially, just due to some particular circumstances about how my living area is kind of set up. That was a little bit awkward. Making sure that I had the appropriate, I had plenty of, support in terms of fillers and people in VC to keep my brain active, because your brain turns off really quickly, like way faster than you'd think when you're just playing A to Z over and over again. And yeah, is mostly, yeah, just making sure I had, I stocked a lot of caffeine on hand and then used nowhere near as much of it as I thought I would. Mainly because Pastry and others wisely reminded me that if you crack into your caffeine too early, that's also the earlier that you crash. So it's better to just kind of use more adrenaline or other wet methods of waking you up that will not involve like chemical crashes later.
Yeah, I think I mentioned this in my stream as well, but I tried not to break into the caffeine until like at least like 20, 22, 24 hours into like a session. So like if it's like still early in or like not at the 20-hour mark or so yet, I try to like stay awake using more natural methods like doing jumping jacks in between menuing, or like eating something that's like a little bit more like strong or like sharp flavor, I guess. So, or even like something like savory, like fruits is a pretty good example. Like just in general, just doing what I can to not require caffeine until I like absolutely need it. And
Standing up is such an OP strat. Like when I realized I could stand up and still like play the game, I was like, wait, I can just stand up. Eventually that stops working, but it's really helpful to just
yeah,
get blood moving.
yeah. Sometimes I would literally just like get up and switch on to like normal, and then like walk around while I was playing, and just so like I could keep like the blood flowing a little bit and keep myself awake. And playing on normal is not really that big of a drop. It maybe cost me like 1,000 DP, which is fine for like a little bit. So it ended up working out pretty nicely too.
Wait, is that why you kept switching difficulties like randomly when we were playing
Yeah.
Song?
Yeah.
Like I switch to normal if I'm doing two things at once. Like if I want to go and like prep food, but I don't want to leave the room, or if I just want to like walk around for a little bit, then yeah, I switch down to normal because it's easier to just one-hander play on thumbs for normal, and then that way I can just do other stuff at the same time.
Yeah, same here. All those times that you saw me switching to easy, like just for no reason out of the blue, it's because I was either going and making food, which meant that I had to pick up my iPad and carry it, so I could only play with one hand, and then do something with the other hand, like make a sandwich with one hand as I'm playing, and then go eat that sandwich with one hand as I'm playing. Or it meant that I was standing up and going and like I especially on the first 3 days, I just filled a sink with water, and when I was getting like super tired, I would just switch to easy, stand up in one hand while I dunked my face in the water and dried it off, and just it's amazing actually, like how much that wakes you up, just kind of sticking your face in cold water especially.
Mm-hmm.
It like kind of opens you up, and your brain's like, whoa, we should probably continue breathing.
Not wrong. Not Raven. And look at us tryhards. We were trying to play special difficulty the entire time, no matter how dead we were or whatever we were doing.
Like towards the end of whenever I stopped playing, I felt like I was in like third person mode. Like I could see like some like idiot just sitting at his chair and playing Bang Dream Life floated above him, and I was like, what the fuck is happening right now? This isn't real.
Oh man, oh man. You know, obviously, we talked about efficiency just a little bit earlier. Zander, when you first got in touch with Raven, and you know, you knew that we were gonna play as a roster together, at like the first hour. Let's be honest, were you a bit nervous that at first when you know you had some completely new guy come in on the spot in the beginning?
A little bit, you know, because like, you know, it's you know, first time tier. How are they going to do? Are they going to be able to keep up with the menuing of it? You know, are they going to have, you know, issues with all the like sort of efficiency guidelines that we have? But I mean, Raven demonstrated pretty good reading comprehension when I was explaining the efficiency stuff to him, and so I was like, yeah, he's probably going to be fine. You know, we might have to work a little hard to keep him from getting boated, but we'll all be in this together. As long as he's with us, he'll be fine. And then he just kind of blew us out of the water with how freaking good he is at you know, menuing, and like I don't think you were ever like the last person to load. That was usually me. But yeah, you picked up on that super fast, and I was really impressed. Like after the first day, I had absolutely zero doubts about Raven. Mm-hmm. Like he put those doubts to bed pretty damn quickly.
Yeah, immediately going in, playing 14 hours nonstop with the stack team, going super quick. Raven, you were definitely a good student in this class.
Yeah, it was just terrifying, like seeing the message, make sure you read efficiency textbook, make sure you read efficiency textbook, like over and over, and I was like, oh my god, I really got to make sure I know this.
It's mainly because people usually don't read the efficiency textbook, and so you have to say it over and over again. But if you read it, you're fine.
Yeah.
So. You just have to make sure that the message is getting ingrained in your skull. You know, be efficient. But I think we are pretty good on that though.
I mean, look at our first couple hours, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think just in general, I was keeping track on everything, and we were doing like pretty consistent 27, 28 song hours. Well, mostly 27s, and we had like a couple of 28s in there too, which is like really good efficiency wise. So there wasn't really nothing to complain about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Again, like I'm on honestly, I was like super shocked how like quickly the first couple of hours went, when like just how many songs we were able to kind of sneak in within every hour. Like clocking average 28 A2Zs per hour is honestly crazy. That's like almost optimal, right? That's like pretty much like in normal human circumstances, that's probably like optimal. I mean, you could probably squeeze 29.
It more or less is. No, I actually don't think 29 is possible. Not with EN, at least. You can do it on JP because there's less server lag in JP, but you can't really do it with EN just because the servers are not quite good enough for 20 nights.
That's fair. That's fair. But again, those little things add up, and it was really able to help push us to get that strong start. So yeah, but that was really good. I already asked Raven about some experiences, notable or memorable experiences in the event. Do any of you two, Pastry or Zander, have other sort of experiences like to share as well about this event?
I'll let Pastry go first.
Experiences I like to share about this event?
Yeah, like what did you feel overall? Like, you feel like this is routine, it's something you've already done every weekend, so it doesn't really matter anymore, right?
I mean, I think the main interesting thing as far as I go is I think I've talked about this before, how a lot of my podiums were not particularly competitive. So I've never really had like an event where I was playing 16 plus hours a day every day for the whole event. So going in for a competitive podium like this was really one of the first times where I was actually getting to see how I would do across a full event length. So I think that was like the most interesting thing, just seeing, because I knew because I know I'm pretty decent when it comes to playing hard for the first few days, and I know that I can pull crazy hours over the course of a full event, but I've only really done it in NR1 where I was also doing work, so I wasn't even playing Bandery the whole time. So this is like the first time that I've actually been able to do a whole event where I'm just playing Bandery, and I don't really have to interrupt myself every so often to worry about keeping myself conscious enough to also do work at the same time, or having to worry about like stopping and starting here and there. So just in general, it was nice to be able to prove to myself that I can play a whole event and be more or less okay, because I think I don't believe I really dropped off of special after like the first few days when I was doing the big run. So that was nice. Just knowing that I could stay on special almost the entire event was pretty nice. And actually, just in general, the fact that I didn't lose my playing skills as much as I was expecting to, because in previous events when I do crazy hours like this, I actually end up becoming a really bad player by the end of the event. I end up being like down to like hard most of the time. I get like average 90, 100 grades on every song and stuff like that. And like this event, I was able to stay on special the entire event. I even was capable of FCing the 28 as for the EX goals, so that was pretty nice. Just in general, being able to prove to myself that I can really do a whole event.
I honestly, I was kind of stressing so much about that EX goal speedrun route. That route was not fun. I was doing some I was doing some planning with the T10 people a day in advance, thinking it was going to be like, oh, okay, we'll just do these songs, we're done, have a nice day. And I realized, wait a second, this route kind of sucks, because there was like Morphonica and like Roselia and Poppin' Party and Hella Happy World, and they were already like all like together in sync, so you can't actually get all the goals at the same time. It was kind of ugly. And I was obviously very nervous as well that I wanted to get these goals done as quickly as possible, to get that little bit of extra points, just a little bit of extra points. I realized very quickly at the end that those points are a lot, but they don't really impact too much in high tiering, but it's still really nice to, of course, get that title.
Yeah, I mean, it's not so much about the number of the points themselves, because I think ultimately when all is said and done, EX goals amounts to like 180, 160k points, something like that, which is like not necessarily like a small amount, but it's half of a set in terms of T10 playing. So for a T10, it doesn't necessarily matter too much, but it's more just you want to get it out of the way ASAP because goals slow down menuing because of how long it takes to get through them, and then B, you just won't be able to really do goals later in the event unless it's because playing A to Z for hours and hours a day kind of destroys your arms.
Yeah, and
So it's just nice to get it out of the way.
Yeah, for sure. It's quite live goals is definitely very interesting. I went into it knowing that wanting that I wanted to get the goals done as quickly as possible because I also wanted to kind of challenge myself and see if I could get those goals as quickly as possible. It was quite interesting to see, and live goals at the end of the day, I always feel quite nice about them because I feel like those would be like extra stonk points, which turns out to be again not as influential in the end, but it's still really good to always be able to get that goal. So yeah, that was it was a really fun session to kind of theorize on what songs that we were going to do and play, and just kind of go from there. I know we all practiced very hard to try and get that, and yeah, it was actually quite enjoyable to kind of take a small break from A to Z before the inevitable A to Z jail for the next couple of days. So that was quite interesting.
I gotta say, like, I really wish someone posted that song list like a little bit before the event, because I was not expecting Morphonic and Change to be there. I was like, oh my god, I haven't touched this song in like years, man. And then like I missed on the slider, and I felt like, oh shit, I ruined everything. Everyone's gonna have like horrible efficiency. The goals are off sync now. I might have just ruined like 9 people's like whole events. And then it turned out not to be that big of a deal. I was like, all right.
Yeah, then you got to watch me flop on Roselia 26's like 3 songs in a row or something.
No, they changed the map on that one on you.
Yeah, I was pretty confident that I was ready to have Pastry flex on Brave Jewel, but it didn't happen.
I'm going to blame my device for that one.
All right.
it was having issues for the first like 3 or 4 hours.
It was that your device was I forgot about that. That was pretty stressful, honestly. Just like, man, what Pastry having a little bit of an off day at first. I was like, oh, but yeah, turns out it was your device.
Yeah, I think once I restarted it, it crashed. So for context, for people that don't know, basically when the event was starting, I was having issues with my device, and I was just disconnecting. I think like once or twice an hour, including a few times where I would have completed goals, but I disconnected, so the goals didn't count. So it's kind of just frustrating because my device is usually pretty good, and I don't actually have disconnection problems a lot. So I was just like, what's going on? Why is it having all these issues? And then I just restarted, and it fixed itself more or less. Yeah, that was actually like pretty frustrating, not gonna lie. Yeah. Not so much in terms of losing songs per hour, because I'm not necessarily that concerned about that. Mm-hmm. But more so just being off on like the goals kind of makes it a little bit more problematic.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of things you can't control. Like for instance, maybe your internet's bad. I was actually having issues with my internet before the event started. I was super nervous going into it because like my connection would just stall and I would be like on the results screen for like forever. And I just wouldn't be able to proceed. And I thought, wow, if this was going to be during the event, I don't know what I could do. So luckily it resolved itself quite well. So I was relatively relieved on that.
Yeah, thankfully.
Zander, what about you? Well, what do you think? Obviously, that being your first T1, that must already be like such a memorable journey to get there. But is there another part where you found that it was quite memorable or quite enjoyable?
Enjoyable. Honestly, the most enjoyable thing about it was, being in voice chat with folks and like watching videos, watching streams, or just chatting and just talking, joking about how tired we all are and stuff. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. It's like the most memorable thing about it is like I've never ever pushed myself in terms of like staying up and endurance and that kind of thing, that was the longest I've ever stayed up consecutively, ever. And the least amount of sleep I've ever gotten over the course of a week. So that was like just like experiencing that kind of limit and pushing myself to really what felt like my breaking point. I don't know if it actually was or if I just like decided to call it quits before it actually became my breaking point. But getting to hour number like 29 and being barely able to see my screen anymore just because like my eyes just would refuse to stay open, and when they were open they would see things that weren't there, like horses and stuff. Yes, no. I at one point I was hallucinating horses on my screen. I don't know why. It's really best that you don't ask because I won't have an answer. But yeah, that's just crazy, is like seeing what exactly I was capable of and saying, okay, wow, so that's what that's like. I don't think I ever want to do that again.
Yeah,
it was we had a phrase in back when I was in college that was referred to the pledging process of the fraternity I joined. It was like, it was the most fun that I would never want to do again. And I think that kind of applies to this. It was some of the most fun that I would never want to experience again.
Yeah. Yeah. Basically, you were just about to say something about like the whole like ordeal of marathoning.
Oh no, I was just gonna say that tiering is, especially when it comes to competitive events and in podium, there's so much of it that's just like a mental process. As far, like, I think a lot of people could physically go pretty far, but it's always like the mental part that starts to kind of distinguish um, the stronger tiers from the weaker tiers. And yeah, I think in general it's very easy to get into the mindset of, I've been doing so much already and I'm kind of just mentally dead. I kind of want to like stop and or like quit, or I don't even want to do the rest of this event, and can I just drop at this point, like that kind of thing. And it just really has to take a lot of pushing to get through that mindset, and a little help from your friends and your mods.
Oh my gosh, yeah. MVPs of this event for me were definitely the moderators and friends that I had along, Michaela, Clem, and everybody, Pastry, the whole folks. There's so many more that I could name, and I'll after the event, the T1 usually writes up a post where they thank everybody, and so I'll name everybody there. But everybody that was with me and supporting me, they dragged my sorry ass over the finish line. It was, the first few days were really rough. Pastry can attest to this. Like, I nearly quit like 5 times in the first couple days just because I was so drained. So drained.
Yeah, I remember that. You're just like, Zander, keep going. It's okay. You can still do this. You're doing great. You're doing great.
It's not easy. It's not easy. I also just want to honestly give an awesome shout out to you guys, because again, like, to have the roster, to have the roster be in like the upper echelon of top 10, to have all of them in there, it's not easy. It's not easy at all. But we really pushed each other, and really like kept each other in check and made sure that we were all okay and were able to continue pushing and working hard towards our goal. And honestly, I think again, if I had that mindset in the past of just going for that casual meme top 11, I would never have known just how far I was able to push myself either, in terms of tiering for this event. But seeing you guys do so well, it's like, well, they're doing so well, like I think I can do well with them as well, and just gotta tag along for the ride. And again, there's a lot of people who were able to support us throughout the whole throughout the whole journey. Again, the mods of the server, being able to just make sure everything is okay and there's no like funky business going on in the server, and also of course encouraging us. There are some many fillers out there who are able to come in and join us and fill in every room. And honestly, I was worried at parts of the event that we would not get any fillers, but again, usually our roster was pretty tight knit and was always playing quite often, and having an extra one or two people in was generally quite easy to find, especially for our super fillers. You know who you are if you're listening to this. Your super fillers, we really thank you, and we're gonna all most likely make posts to thank all of you for your troubles. It is yeah, and those in voice chat as well. I had like a really crazy voice chat. I think it was like day 2, day 3 an event. Honestly, you guys were the MVPs. All of you guys are MVPs. Again, this kind of tiering is not something you could do alone. It's something that you have to get a lot of people to support you. And honestly, I think I'm personally very happy to have the support from you three and many others in the 3A server. But I'm sure you all have your individual thanks that you want to give as well.
Actually, just as like a general comment here too, I was pretty both surprised and impressed with how good our fills were for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
I actually feel like until maybe like the last few days, we were doing pretty good at never really having to like run 3 or under, which is not really easy to do in a event where podium is competitive, but maybe T10 or T100 is not quite as competitive. It can be kind of difficult to find fills sometimes. So just being able to run full rooms 90% of the time is such a blessing. It's really something that like you really shouldn't take for granted. I've been in situations where it was probably like me and maybe like 1 or 2 other people for 4, 5, 6 hours at a time.
Wow.
So it's great to have a server where so many people were willing to fill, even when they weren't necessarily tiering the event either. So definitely, all of the fills deserve an MVP award as well.
Absolutely, 100%. It was a really, really team effort with everyone in the server. Like my list, I tried to keep track as best I could of like every person that joined the room to fill, even for like just a game or two. And I have to scroll multiple times on my mouse wheel to get to the bottom of it. So many people were just willing to invest their time in us. It's incredibly, incredibly meaningful, and I don't take it for granted at all. It's just super thankful that everyone thought that this was a good team to get behind, and I'm so glad that they did.
For sure. Again, guys, it's honestly, it's great to be able to share each other's experiences. Again, I have a lot of other experiences that I would probably share, but I'll probably save those for when the time comes, and of course in my thank you post as well. Again, this was surprisingly my very first top 10, and the experiences that Zander, Pastry, and Raven that you gave me to be able to achieve this top 10 with you guys was something that I honestly can't forget. So again, thank you to the 3 of you, and of course, again, big shout outs to everyone else in the mods of the server, the fillers in the server. Also special shout outs to Sal. Unfortunately, couldn't join us in that roster, but we would definitely hope that nothing is in vain in terms of her contributions as well. I'm just gonna now open the floor to some questions on our YouTube. So I've seen a couple of questions on the chat already. So if you have a question you want to ask to any of our guests, definitely let us know. We're gonna do it for a short Q&A session. We won't go for too long. So I'll get some questions in and see if if anyone has any questions that they would like to ask to anyone here, and if you want to be specific to who you want to ask, let us know. One person I know way back in the beginning is how how kind of expensive these kind of T10 events are. I'm just gonna go first because I don't want to make you guys feel uncomfortable in sharing. If you don't want to share, if you just want to say that it was very expensive, feel free to do so. But again, I kind of went into the event with a little bit of preparation, but not too much. But basically, ever since topping days, was just way back in December, I was like, okay, I need to find an event that I could try and get my next top 11 that I failed to get. And again, I failed to do that again, but in a different way. So I wanted to, figure out what event I wanted to prepare for and just save in advance. I'm not much of a spender. I'm like a dolphin in the game, so I wanted to get into this to this event to see how much I could do with just free to play stars and not try and spend any and try to see how far I could go with it. So I know some numbers have been thrown out in the past that like anywhere between 30 to 45k stars is generally how much you would use in energy equivalent to get a top 10 in most events. I was definitely in that range as well, and I had that all saved up before this event. So it was something that, if you are thinking about top 10 and free to play, I'm living proof that I that you are able to get T10 as a free to play low spending player. No, it's not 44k USD. In the comments, I did not spend for 44,000 USD for this. This would be, if I spent 44,000 USD for 5th place, I don't think I would be very happy. But yeah, like, if you guys want to indulge a bit in terms of like general cost as well, or just be alluding to how expensive it is.
I can offer up how much I roughly spent. It's kind of hard to guess because I also didn't spend. I'm an extremely patient person when it comes to spending in games. So I had been saving pretty much since Twin Stars, which was at the end of 2019. So in terms of like actual money that this cost me, it only cost me, I'd say, a couple hundred in how much I spent on some gotchas and like I bought star pack, like the pretty much all that I bought was like Black Friday star packs and anniversary star packs. If I'm remembering correctly, and occasionally happy boxes, but I haven't bought a happy box in ages. Everything else was just saving free to play stars and just not spending those stars unless I needed to like pull up the card for the banner. And of course, I can't really say that my gacha luck is representative at all. Honestly, it would have cost me probably another 100 or 200 more if I had been less lucky on the Toko card, or if I had also pulled on the Misaki card. So you have to take that into account. And let's see, I started at the event with around 150,000 stars stored up. And I spent roughly I spent roughly 70,000 of those. Is that right? No, 80,000 of those, plus probably around another 5,000 worth of cans.
Wow.
So that was like around like an 80 to 90,000 star T1. No, Pastry is much better at calculating these kind of costs than I am. So
Yeah, well, no, that sounds about accurate though. I think I spent around the same, like 80 to 90k. I think it's closer to 80k, because I came in with like I think 500, 600 cans.
Yeah, that I did too. But I was
So,
also just talking like in terms of like the star value of those cans, because
yeah, like 82, 83K, probably something in that range.
yeah.
Mm.
But yeah, when you also factor in gacha, it was more like I spent around 150,000 stars in total on gacha, plus the actual stars for flames.
Yeah. Yeah, my experience is like pretty similar, though. Well, okay, as it's similar in terms of stars spent. I came in with like 10K stars total, so I bought 80. I bought the additional like 70K worth of stars. So,
Oof.
but I mean, honestly, like I wouldn't consider like an 80 to 90K like T1 like particularly bad. Like it feels like more or less around like the standard. I think actually for me it's kind of funny because my actual T1s were like 60K stars.
Oh man.
And then so for a very long period of time, my most expensive title was my Twin Star T4, which was 70K stars. So it's nice that I'm well. I guess nice is maybe not the best way to describe it, but it feels fitting that I finally have that my most expensive title is finally an actual podium instead of just a Twin Star T4 that I only did because I was just going for a ridiculous part goal anyways.
Yeah.
But yeah, about like 80 to 90K stars sounds about right. And then I don't think I spent too much in terms of gacha because the gacha that I was doing was also things I was doing for other events too. Like I got Misaki in around like I think like 20 to 30K stars, but I was only rolling that I wasn't even rolling the banner for DF Misaki. I was rolling it for New Zako. So I don't know if that really necessarily counts per se. Because I just got lucky that I happened to get Misaki in the same fold, but I wasn't going to break the bank for her or anything.
Yeah.
And then Toko, I think I got in like another like 10 to 15K stars. She was not very expensive. Um, and then I don't think I did too much else in terms of gacha. Though I did end up doing some gacha on this event as well. Not because I needed to, but because I just wanted to get Sayo. And I hadn't initially planned to do it, but I budgeted out for almost like 150K stars. So when the actual event turned out to be a lot cheaper than what I had budgeted, because I was planning for a 9 to 10 day event if necessary, but we got lucky that it was only 7 days, and you can't really spend more than like 20K stars a day. So it kind of like there's kind of a forced cap to how much you need to prepare for it. So once we got down to it, and I could see that it wasn't going to end up being my full budget. I was like, well, I have some space to roll a little bit on the banner, and I somehow managed to get Sayo within how much was it? 100 pulls?
100 pulls.
Yeah, 100 pulls. So 25K stars.
Yeah. Well, again, it's interesting in that perspective because I always kind of I forgot like going into an event that like for especially for really competitive spots, you need a lot more resources, not just for the event but also the gacha. So like the actual cost for an event extends beyond what you've just spent in this past like 7, 8, 9 whatever days. So it's quite interesting, and I know Raven is probably just is gonna say no comment on his spendings.
No income kind of hurts sometimes. I'm just gonna say that.
This event has made you become a relive that the poor college student life, I guess, for a little bit.
Relive?
Oh,
he's still living it.
Oh man, living
He's
in
it
in double form now. I'm sorry to hear that.
Well, I think I'm happy that I didn't really need a gacha anything because I
Fair.
just ended up with like the team. And I was like, okay, well this
Yeah.
saves quite a bit of stars actually.
Yeah.
That was cool.
There was a question for you by again this fire toe person. How do you play the game?
Well, if you want to learn to play the game, you should check out Phil's channel. There's a lot of tutorials on there
Whoa.
about how to play the
Whoa.
game. I'm sure it'll be very, very helpful to a newcomer.
Whoa,
I've heard some
hashtag
good things about this
sponsored.
Phil guy. This Phil guy seems like he's pretty reliable. He seems pretty good, well knowledgeable about this Bang Dream Girls Band Party game.
Yes. I imagine Bang Dream Girls Band Party. What a great game. A question come up in terms of again, you don't have to disclose. Again, this could be a bit more personal, but you know, what like in terms of like, you know, what we do in life in order to you know, quote unquote afford these titles. But you don't have to disclose if you don't want. I know we already disclosed that Raven's a student, so you know, things happen. But yeah, again, it really ultimately, I'm just gonna kind of steal it a bit, but again, it really depends on what you can do, because again, you don't necessarily have to be a mega whale to get the titles you want. Again, a lot of people, when they think of tiering, and again, it's a very common conception, but it's a misconception, that like tiering is very like, I mean, yes, you are spending a lot of time. You're playing, you know, Unite from A to Z, like almost, you know, 24 hours a day, and no life, and all that stuff, and it can be quite expensive. But you know, if you save it, if you prepare well in advance, like for instance how I did, and again, you even for the larger tiers, they do a lot of preparation in advance to try and minimize the amount of cost they have to put into. Getting top 10 is definitely a very, very doable thing. Yeah, you know, again, for me, I'm just like, you know, a typical productive member of society, as we say. And you know, just doing what I can, and of course, as a dolphin, it just makes things a lot easier to just realize that, you know, it feels really rewarding to be able to get this title.
It really just boils down to being willing to be patient and wait for the right time and the right event, and just being willing to save and plan your budget. Like you really have to like understand your income, what you can handle, what you can, you know, like I stressed this a lot when, you know, asking around about like forming my roster and getting people on my roster. Like, you know, you don't spend what you can't, and you just be careful with what you have, and you just have to go into it with open eyes and a clear understanding of like, you know, what your expenses are going to look like and how you're going to plan around that. And like, you know, you don't have to be, you know, working a high paying, like, you know, you don't have to make it, you don't have to be rich or something like that. You just have to be really careful about your planning and your budgeting. Like 90% of it is just budgeting, and
Yeah.
being willing to have delayed gratification and understand that you just got to be patient sometimes.
I
Yeah.
definitely agree with that. Again, the fact that, especially some newer players, they want to come in and immediately want a tier, but at that point they really have a lot of resources saved, and you know, getting a top title in such a recent account with not a lot of saved assets and resources, it's way harder. It took me, I mean, I got into this game like in 2018, and it's like 3.5 years later that I finally got my first T10. Like it's a lot of patience is needed, especially if you're starting new.
Yeah. I mean, I know quite a few people who have T1 do the free to play, or even just like working minimum wage jobs. It really doesn't necessarily matter what your specific occupation is. Like obviously, if you do work in a nicer job, it might be a little bit easier. But even then, like in general, at least for me, I budgeted out all of my income and my expected gacha or tiering plans up to almost a year or 2 years in advance, because I also play other games that I can budget. I have the budget for as well. And so it's just like it really just comes down to what do I consider a must do, and what can I drop out if I need to make some space. So there might be certain events where I really like it and I want to tier it, or I might want to song tier it, but I can't afford it because I have to do other events instead. So it's just like I set like limits for myself at every point in time as well. So I can't go over like this amount in this gacha, or this amount, or I have to spark in this gacha, so I can't go over like say like 10k, 20k stars in this other gacha, etc., etc. It's just really like knowing your own limits and making sure that you stick to the restrictions that you set for yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Very, very well. Very excellent points you all brought up here. Again, tiering. There's a lot of things to it, and again, I Zander, Pastry for sure definitely have more experience than I do, and it's always great to hear from their perspective of what things are like. So, good. So there is a couple of questions here. There was a question of how, like, on average, how long would spend per day to do a T10, and some people in the comments were already answering that it's about 10 hours a day. That does sound right. I think I spent about like 10 hours a day for my T10. I think Raven spent a little bit longer, but I mean that's why you got forced. No surprise there.
It definitely depends on the event too, because some events you can end up spending 14 to 15 hours a day playing, and in other events you can play 24 hours the first day and then play like 2 hours a day for the rest of the event.
Yeah. So it really depends on the event for sure. There was another question on I don't know how much of a juicy of a question this is, but what's everyone's most hated bandery band?
I don't like phrasing it in terms of hate. That's a little mean. I don't hate any of the band. I mean, I have favorite band, but I don't have a band that I'm like, oh, I hate this band.
So everyone say their favorite band is Roselia. Say I. I. Raven.
Well, I feel like Roselia songs all just kind of sound the same after listening to them for a while.
It's a pretty common critique.
Yeah,
that's fair.
But yeah, no, kind of same with Zander though. I don't have a band that I would say is a hated band. I think I've said this before, but Bandery is a series that has 35 best girls. There isn't really a band that I don't like in any way, shape, or form. I love all the bands in some to various degrees.
Yeah.
There's just very good writing in the series, and just in general, you can empathize with the characters and fall in love with all the characters in their own little way.
And like when it comes to the bands, like as units, like every one has something unique about it, and every single one has a song that just absolutely slaps. Like there's no band that just doesn't have any good songs, because of every single one of them has a handful of just absolute bangers. So there's not. I'm not gonna ever go around and say, oh, I hate one band or another.
Yeah.
I just like one band more than the rest.
And then Raven's just gonna randomly come in and say, I hate this band, X band, right?
No, I don't hate the bands. I just hate the beat maps for some of the bands. Like, if I have to play another 28 song, I think I'm actually just going to cry.
My favorite, I still think one of my favorite comments that you shared, like when I first met you in this roster, is that when we asked to do like Sugar Song Bitter Step in the 28 expert goal, he's like, no, F no, the beat map changes every time you play it, and I'm like, that's actually not wrong. It does actually feel like that sometimes. It's pretty funny. Yeah, but I agree with everyone else. I don't hate any band. Obviously, there's like a scale where like, you like a band but they're like at the bottom of the scale because you kind of have to have someone at the bottom of the scale. And then there's like bands you like really, 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 really like. So
Like that's that like goes along with what Pastry said, with how the writing's good enough to actually make you care about bands whose music you might not necessarily like.
true. It's actually so true. So
Yeah, like I'm not a super big fan of the majority of Pastel Palettes like music. There's only a few songs by Pastel that I'll like, that I have like on my playlist of stuff that I won't ever like skip. But I do care about the Pastel story, and like the characters interact in really interesting ways. And I care about their story and their development. So it's just like I'm sure that there are people who feel the same way about Roselia. Like they don't necessarily enjoy Roselia's music, but they think that the the story is interesting and the characters are interesting, even if they're not always queuing it up on Spotify.
Yeah, for sure. I chuckled a little bit there because one person is spamming my comments right now, asking Pastry to notice them. Fun for your next T1.
I did see that. I am also a big fan of this person. But as far as funding T1s go, important question: is it your Sekai T1?
Oh God! We'll move on to the last question. Again, we're running short on time for this podcast, but we'll go for one more question here. And the last question is, how much rest are we getting after this whole ordeal? I know for most of us, we've pretty much all finished and wrapped up, and everything's all good to go. Almost like 12 hours ago. How was the sort of post Bandery A to Z jail kind of relaxation period for you three?
What relaxation? I'm doing the next event too.
Well, you are an exception because for whatever reason you decided to say, I'll do T2 this event, and why not do a T3 after? Because I don't know, Pastry, you're a little crazy, I think. Well, enjoy your rest, your very brief rest until you go back to A to Z jail again.
Well, my hope is that Tahina will at least not be hit by any surprise snipers, and maybe then I can actually take it easy.
Yeah. Well, what about you? What about you, Zander? How has been the past like 12-ish hours, or even past
Dude,
24 hours?
I got to play Genshin Impact. It was amazing. I got to do something that I got to play a video game that didn't involve slapping my iPad over and over again. It was great.
Yeah.
I also got to sleep, which is also fantastic.
I got like 7 hours of sleep last night. It's great feeling. Raven, I know you have to wake up. You have to set an alarm to join us. But how is your post event?
I'm like super whiplashed by it, I guess, because I keep having dreams about people asking for fills. And, like, I had a dream last night where like I was parking and I kept messing up, so I had to keep going higher and higher. It's not fun, but hopefully it's gonna go away soon.
Oh, I'm sorry. It seemed like you got traumatized.
I think anyone going in like with as little experience as me is gonna get traumatized from doing T10 like this.
Right at the first go, right? Yeah. Oh man. Well, again, there's about, at the time of this podcast, there's still about like 3.5-ish hours before we finally see the final results of this event. And for Zander and Raven, get a great rest. And for Pastry, good luck on your next event. I will also, rest myself as well. I've been resting pretty well, so everything is, pretty good for me right now. Again, I'll be honest. This T10 was tiresome for sure, but even if it was competitive, I actually surprisingly thought that it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. So like I think I found ways to like really push myself to like my limit when it comes to tiering, and even I was still like pretty like on and off with scheduling, right? Because of my I had a small hand injury too, but I was like doing a couple sets and like doing a very short break and then coming back in, and that really kind of helped me pace myself, and I learned a lot about myself in terms of like pacing for events. I really did not think I was able to do something like this, but um, turns out I'm quite capable of doing that. So I'm pretty proud about that as well, and something that I will you know keep in mind for maybe next time. Hashtag whale thoughts. um, yeah. So before we end off, Xander, any plans on what you're gonna do after this event?
I'm probably finished with podiums, T10s probably too. Like it would take a really, really monstrously special event for me to even consider T10ing again. I think for the most part, I'm just gonna focus on, I've been trying to kind of wind down a little bit of my involvement in like mobile game stuff and reallocate time in my life to get some balance elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So this was kind of my last hurrah, even though I haven't had very many hurrahs at all. And when it comes like I did a T10 and then I did this, and that's it. But yeah, like I'll be around to fill for friends, maybe do some T100s for events that mean stuff to me. I still don't have a Roselia. No, I do have a Roselia T100.
Yeah, you do.
I have some Roselia. But I'd like to get some more Roselia T100s,
for sure.
Sio T100s, but that's probably about it.
Why don't you jinx it? We'll go back to this podcast one day. In the future, if this actually ends up happening, if there was a dream T1, if there was a dream second T1, or even just podium, what kind of event would that be?
Okay, a dream second. I mean, I'm not going to T1 again. That's especially not if it's contested, because I mean, I don't know. I'm not about that life. One was nice. But like a dream podium or T10 would probably be like, I don't know. I really want to see Sio and Saya interact.
Oh, that'd be good.
They're both sisters. They're both my top 2 favorite characters. They haven't had an event yet where they're both 4 stars. So I'd really like to see a Sio Saya event.
All right, Bushiro gods, where are you? Kadani, are you watching?
Someday, maybe someday.
Honestly, Zander has pretty good taste. Not gonna lie. Raven, no more. Go back to Mandarin retirement home.
I was always living in the retirement home. I just played this game casually.
Fair.
I never thought I'd ever get a T10.
Fair. And I was gonna ask Pastry the same question, but we all know what he's doing. He's doing weekly T1s, right? But is there like an actual like dream event for you as well, like in the future? Like would there actually be like a super dream event, or is all the experience you had so far like already like you considered a dream event to be done, one and done?
I don't know. I think I've actually gotten a lot of the events that I really wanted. Like, I do have one thing I would want to do eventually, but I think my dream event was ISIO, and then I got that with Karuta. So I've hit a lot of like the things that I already really want. But I think if there is a quote unquote dream event, it would probably be ISIO Part 2, but with Sayo as the banner this time. So we already had like ISIO once with I as the banner, and I want to do it again, but with Sayo as the banner.
For sure.
And I actually also had I've also always wanted a Big Sisters event. So you know how we have so many big sisters in Bander. You know, there's Sayo, there's Tomoe, I as a big sister, Saya is a big sister. Misaki is a big sister. You know, there's like so many like big sisters in Bandry, and I always thought it would be great to have an event where it is like all like the big sisters, even if we can't actually fit all of them into one event. But just an event of that nature would be really cool in my opinion. And so if that ever happens, I am down to do that as well.
True. Sayo, Aya, Misaki. There is Tomoe. There's
Tomoe,
Tsukushi as well. Saya.
Tsukushi as well.
Oh my goodness. And obviously Lisa, but that was a thing for like 5 days or 4 days, but we don't talk about that. Unfortunately. Yeah, honestly another dream event I think I would want is like, again, I don't know if Bushiroad's ever gonna do this, but the graduation of the third years. Especially in, I forgot which was it, Hanaoka that Sayo and all the others are in? Like the third year, Sayo, Aya, Chisato, Kanon, and Rinko. That would be a really, really interesting event. That would be really contested though, but that would
be
really
cool as like a graduation event too.
Yeah.
You know, like you could do like a Hanaoka graduation and then do another one with like the other school too. I think they've actually even had like they've had like hangouts between like the third years in some cards as well. Like if you look at DF2 Kanon's card, there's a moment with the third years all going to like an aquarium together, which is like pretty cool. So the potential is there. The potential is there.
We'll see. Otherwise, look out for Sayo Himari for me, I guess. But I don't think that'll ever happen. And then Bushiro
never say never.
But then
never say never.
Comes, knocking on my door. Honestly, you guys, it was a great pleasure having you. This podcast actually went a little longer than expected, but again, it's great having you guys join this and honestly be able to share your experiences once more with all of us and just kind of relive the amazing time we had together these past 7 days cheering for this event. Honestly, again, like just like exactly 1 week ago, we were in A2Z jail, but here we are with our titles and really proud of you all. I can't thank you enough for being amazing teammates as well, and of course being a part of this podcast again. So thank you to you guys for tuning in.
It was a pleasure.
Oh yeah, thanks for having us, I guess.
you honestly sound like the moment I mentioned like A2Z jail or anything, Raven, you sound traumatized.
I could hear the song and I'm not even playing it. I never want to do this again.
Any last words or shout outs to our fan here? Any last shout outs to maybe any of the viewers who are watching right now or anyone who we haven't mentioned yet?
Thanks to Domo for keeping the 111 room alive.
Domo was such a hero. Oh my gosh. I mean, there were so many people who were just absolute heroes, just filling rooms when we were like super desperate. Like I've got my entire list here that I'll put in my post, but there's just so many of y'all were just completely and totally heroes. And even if you didn't fill it, if you're like just hanging out in VC keeping us awake, like that was equally crucial. So everybody in the server, everybody in class 3A, as the tag says, y'all are all just fantastic. Thank you so much.
Any other shout outs?
I think I've already mentioned quite a few people, but I'll actually give a shout out to all of the people who filled for us at like 5 to 6 a.m. my time. That was like, so like you'd see like you'd see like Fluffy, you see Hyde all around at like 5 a.m. in like the dead of night when nobody else is awake. And usually that's like the worst time for fills in my experience. So I was really grateful to everybody who showed up in the early morning and just showing up at the deadest hours. And you guys were like a big part of how we were able to keep the momentum going and keeping everything efficient, even during times when normally people are just passed out asleep or at work.
Mhm.
So I really appreciate all of you guys.
For sure.
Also, big shout out to Sal. And I'm sad that you couldn't come along with for the T10 ride with the rest of us, but thanks for sticking around in the server and filling and being active and thanks for everything you did. And I hope that you get another opportunity to go for a T10 goal, and that wish you the best of luck in all of your future stuff.
For sure.
So thanks a lot, Sal.
For sure. I definitely was thinking this was going to be like a ISI remix this event with the roster as well, but yeah, think things happen in tiering and such. But again, big shout outs to Sal. You're not in vain. You might actually look at my park and see something a bit familiar with the number, but yeah. Honestly, guys, again, thank you all so much for watching, and for those who are on stream on YouTube, you guys are honestly amazing. Just seeing all the comments, I got a lot of laughs and giggles from some of you guys, and there were some questions that people were asking, and people were able to answer and jump in. So great job, and I'm really happy to have all of you attend this live session live. So in the future, I hope to have more of these. Obviously the podcast series will continue as normal, but if people are interested, I'll certainly maybe try and take the time to do these live YouTube streams with specific members and group people all together and do these sessions. If people are interested, or maybe even as part of my podcast series as well, have a Q&A section at the end where people could submit questions to our guests in waiting, and be able to answer some of these questions. So. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching. It's your boy, SBPhillos4, your host, signing out. Thank you all so much for watching and for listening. And we will go rest up. But RePHIL never ends, and we will see you all in the next set. Take care, everyone. Have a good rest of your day, and thanks for listening. Bye-bye.